So I wonder if Satoshi Nakamoto will be discussed as, someone like Shakespeare in the future. Not because of, incredible prose, but I'm thinking specifically and especially with regards to, is Satoshi Nakamoto potentially the pseudonym of a collective of individuals who developed a certain technology? Which isn't to say that an individual human wouldn't have developed it, it's just to say perhaps it was also a group. I'm just hypothesizing, like it's not really. Could have sworn that I saved this before, but guess I didn't. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Sure, we'll do that. Actually, hello and welcome. My name is King Cube, or that's what I go by. Also known as the Begging Poet. I am a wannabe variety streamer on in the wildlands of the Twitchiverse. Um, I'm currently in the process of decompressing the threads of a braid that I made so that I can stretch with it. Good for getting the pecs stretched out a little bit, like so. Ooh, shoulder mobility. And in the meantime, doing a few other little things. else? I need to really hammer out that introduction. I suppose if I were to... Oops. Hi there. My name is the Begging Poet, or I guess I'm the least deadly uncle. I call myself the Begging Poet. I guess, hi, I'm the Begging Poet. I call myself the least deadly uncle. That also could work. Well, no, because then I mangle things. Hi there, I'm the least deadly uncle. I call myself the Begging Poet. I just think that it would be nice if we could turn some money into change. It would help us make sense of all these cents. Begging for some change. At least I think I call myself the Begging Poet. I'm over here begging for change, thinking it would be nice if we could turn some money into change. It would help us make sense of all these cents. Something like that. Variety streamer coming to you on the Twitchiverse while simulcasting on YouTube Live, which is vaguely exciting for reasons of novelty of technology and learning platforms. I suppose this is meant as something of an instructable on peaceful global revolution. Some things are easier to show instead of tell, and that's kind of the approach that I'm taking. So, the whole be the change notion, I suppose. Oh, that's funny in the context of the intro that I just made. Be the change. Turn some money into change. Excuse me. But you can't turn yourself. Well, I guess you can be the change, but you can't transmute yourself into change. At least not in the English definition of the word change. There are other tasks that I have to occupy myself with. But I do really want to read this white paper. Okay, so it tops out at 10 commands to run. So, this is going to be highly technical for myself. I'm not very well versed in this kind of stuff, but I'll do my best to read it, and I'll do my best to explain it as far as I understand it. What I'm also going to do, now that I think about it, is to make a list for myself. Added 0550. some more tunes on. By tunes, I mean jazz up the immersion a little bit without playing jazz. I was using the term colloquial. That's obvious. Russia's Gen Z uprising might accomplish what the West can't. I think one of the interesting things about, I don't know if this is a cultural thing, I think it's more a temporal issue, is the notion of books being used as primary resources, primary sources in history. And the fact that that isn't really the case anymore. Like, in the early 20th century, Russian youth, disenfranchised, lower to middle class, or those who moved from the country to city centers, quickly became delusioned by what they experienced. Amusingly enough, the things that I'm relaying to you were shared with me by somebody who had read this in a book. Which coincidentally was also how knowledge used to be shared. Those who were literate and could read would speak with those around them and say, hey, like, this is what it says. And I find it really, really interesting for a few different reasons. Because what they ended up realizing was, like, there are problems in society. We have potential fixes to those problems in society if we do something about class. And it seems like nowadays, believing and understanding, well, are two different things, but believing and understanding the hardships that other people endure on account of extant systems from a primary source such as a book doesn't matter. Because, like, we can even watch videos and we're like, oh, that fucking sucks. Instead of how it was like, oh, well, maybe do something about it, historically speaking. And how it was like, we could organize together. We could share these thoughts and ideas. And what was shared about this book was the whole notion of these youth coming together and reading these books and developing this understanding of class and class structure and questioning extant hierarchies placed on people. I wish I knew where I was going with this. I got slightly distracted, but or I've more or less made my point, actually, if I'm fair with myself. So it's like we have this understanding of class consciousness, but it doesn't matter almost. I'm grossly digressing from the point that I wanted to make. But yeah, just, I think I actually kind of doubled down on it with regards to being able to witness media and how that doesn't totally matter. Forgive me for not totally focusing my attention right here. Sometimes the counter is slightly off, and so I also don't want to spook you by focusing too much on the fact that there is another person here with me. Um, but yeah, it's also that because you're not saying anything in the chat, which is totally fine. Lurkers absolutely welcome. I'm also addressing future audiences over in the YouTube live that I'm going to save. So, you know, these youth would end up experiencing this stuff, and they would, through written testimony, whether sorry, I'll read those in a second. Through written testimony, whether it was fictional or like verified. And so I just think that's a very interesting thing now, where we struggle so much to understand that. Oh, and I was going to. That's right. I was talking about jazz. I was. I wasn't talking about jazz. I was talking about writing some shit down. And getting some music going. And the fact that I wanted this. Oh, that's not the video that it was on. Oh, I've gone through that much. Oh, jeez. Sorry. Okay, let's check on this. Oh, wow. There's a name I haven't seen in ages. Thank you very much. That's the most ridiculous wordplay ever. That's. Oh, jeez. Okay, loading that into Firefox. Yeah, I've been taking a break from streaming for quite a while. It's good though. It's really. That's why I had, for a time, I had two frickin' streams of NASA audio going. I was wondering what that was. Okay, that's what I thought. Good. So it's 1, 2, 3 with that. So there's 3 channels from one source, or 1 channel from another source. Okay. It's looking like a Deep Space Nine kind of thing. Okay. Ooh. Oh, of course. Very nice. Okay, good job, me. That's funny. Thanks for popping in. And no, I actually do. I remember the username. I can't remember exactly what we conversed about because it's been a few months. But no, I definitely remember it's a fairly memorable username because it's a funny wordplay. Um, it did take me a moment, but I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that I recall. Oh, thank you. Now that's the problem because I don't remember which poetry I had shared with you. And which coincidentally also makes my introduction that much better. Which also, I'm really stoked. You got to witness it for the first time. The whole hi there, I'm the least deadly uncle. I call myself the begging poet. I write poetry that begs for change. Mm. And I just think that it would be nice if we could turn some money into change. I write poetry that begs us to turn money into change. I'm going to write that down. I've kind of had a dry spell for a little bit. I've started like one or two pieces. One's about pickup trucks, which is kind of funny. Well, trucks, but it's like so if the pickup bed or if having a bed defines a truck, then an El Camino is a truck. And if having a bed defines a truck, then an excursion, not a truck, which is kind of funny. Um, and technically too, like if you write down the line too. Econoline cube vans. Just let me write this down. Ye gods, this is me on Ritalin, by the way. Brains, man. I write poetry that begs us to turn money into change. It would help us to make sense of all of these cents. Good start. In case you're wondering, by the way, this is like a device to stretch with for my shoulders. Firstly, thank you very much for the compliment. I very much appreciate that. And it actually does mean a lot to have like a repeat viewer, to have another repeat viewer, because, well, dopamine. Um, and it's gratifying to know that the things that I talk about and just existing and sharing space with people, excuse me, is something that folks want to come back for. Stretch those patties. Yeah, it's for the packs, man. They gotta. Ooh. Thank you for listening to my thoughts about the world. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And to the person who just joined, to the person who just joined us, pardon me. I'm the least deadly uncle. I call myself the begging poet. I'm a wannabe variety streamer, and I occasionally write poetry that begs us to turn money into change because it would help us make sense of all of these cents. Got to do the finger guns. That's probably going to be part of it too. Uh, Currently, I am engaged in the process of attending to a to-do list that I wrote 21 minutes ago, closer to 20 minutes ago. And that's going somewhat okay. There's only 6 items on it. One of them's already been accomplished. Granted, that was as easy as finding what I thought was an article, but turns out is just one of the. It's just the abstract from the Satoshi Nakamoto whitepaper on Bitcoin. I haven't read the whitepaper yet, so we're going to do that on the stream today. Of course, this is at odds with the other tasks that I have to do and accomplish. And there are things that are happening tonight which I would like to attend, one of which begins in about an hour and a half. But, well, not but, keeping that in mind, See, because I said earlier today, I was like, oh, I'm going to read the white paper. It's only 9 pages. I can hammer that out in an hour. Even if it's highly technical, I don't have to Google everything. I really resent the fact that we use the corporate identity of a search engine in like everyday nomenclature to indicate searching something on the internet. It's a very, very insidious but clever, admittedly, marketing technique. The archived emails, I don't necessarily have to read now. I do have to do that. And those two things can technically wait for another day. Although I would like to look into them. Let's just fucking read this stupid paper. It's not that big of a deal. How do I zoom in? There we go. Okay, I didn't start doing this 13 to 15 years ago, so I might as well do it now. Okay, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. Authored by Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshin at Gamma Mecha X-ray.com. gmx.com. www.bitcoin.org. Okay. In my mind, peer-to-peer just makes me think of something like BitTorrent. Bitcoin, BitTorrent, probably related. Oh, ship. The finger gun sold it, thank you. Sorry for the lateness on that one. And have a great day to the individual who potentially has left. Again, I don't know about how the thing works. Anyway. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution, technically also bypassing the huge array of financial entities that process payments and profit off of that too. Digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. We propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transactions by hashtagging them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. So whatever the timestamp includes. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as a majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they will generate the longest chain and outpace attacks. Okay. So it's meant to be secure in that respect too, because it tries to reduce the likelihood that it's going to be spoofed. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. This sounds a lot like BitTorrent. Well, at least what I know about it. Not that I know very much about it, but kind of has a BitTorrent-y vibe to it. I feel very fortunate for the time that I was born in history. It allowed me to interact with certain technologies at very interesting points in their development. 1. Introduction. Commerce on the internet has come to rely almost exclusively on financial institutions serving as trusted third parties to process electronic payments. While the system works well enough for most transactions, it still suffers from the inherent weaknesses of the trust-based model. Completely non-reversible transactions are not really possible, since financial institutions cannot avoid mediating disputes. One of the things that I'm wondering about, though, is that if you take a cryptocurrency and the objective is to create something that is non-reversible as a transaction, when you incorporate fiat currency into that whole system, doesn't that kind of render moot the purpose of having a non-reversible transaction that's also verified with regards to ownership? The cost of mediation increases transaction cost, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. And there is a broader cost in the loss of ability to make non-reversible payments for non-reversible services. Okay, in that context, that makes sense. The cost of mediation increases transaction costs. Sure, if people are mediating it, but this is like a pre-generative, what we call generative AI. I freaking hate that term. The use of large language models, which were largely trained on big data from social media samples hypothesis. Cost of mediation increases transaction cost, limiting the minimum practical transaction size and cutting off the possibility for small casual transactions. What defines small? But I guess that's also the whole notion of Bitcoin, because the whole thing is based on the notion of prospecting. The non-reversible payments and non-reversible services makes a lot of sense. With the possibility of reversal, the need for trust spreads. Yes. Okay, so I guess the point is that you're supposed to be... Oh, so reversibility is transaction of item or... Okay. Merchants must be wary of their customers hassling them for more information than they would otherwise need. A certain percentage of fraud is accepted as unavoidable. Yeah. These costs and payment uncertainties can be avoided in person by using physical currency, but no mechanism exists to make payments over a communications channel without a trusted party. What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic proof instead of trust, allowing any two willing parties to transact directly with each other without the need for a trusted third party. Transactions that are computationally impractical to reverse would protect sellers from fraud, and routine escrow mechanisms could easily be implemented to protect buyers. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proofs of the chronological order of transactions. The system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. So that last part makes more sense in that sentence. Solution to the double spending problem, so you don't charge twice, using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server. I said I wasn't going to explain this too much, because I just want to get through this so I can focus on the other things that I have to do. It's only been 10 minutes. Computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. So I guess that's where the proof of ownership comes from, because it passes from this entity to that entity to that entity. Realistically, not all, but another thing that cryptocurrency does, because it's tied to individual users in non-anonymous, I guess, like wallet managers, it allows authorities to basically subpoena information that would allow them to detect fraud by proxy by looking at transfers of cash, transfers of money without the utilization of physical cash, which is kind of interesting. Hypothesis. The system is secure as long as the honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. That's why they need to build so many data centers. If you developed a software that was portable, this would be obvious to anybody who's like half decent at coding. If you developed software that was portable, low resource intensity, or even could be run, I can't remember the difference between containers and virtual machines right now. One of them runs off the OS or whatever. Or I guess using extant libraries from the OS would probably be a better way to phrase it. There's more computing power combined in the world on every single mobile device and every single computing device that exists. You increase that exponentially if you also hijack technology that's on the Internet of Things. So if you were to be able to harness with software the computing power, excuse me, be right back. The computing power even without backdoors, if people just opted into it with various devices, kind of like a SETI at home sort of idea, you could potentially outstrip the computational power of the honest nodes that are held by private corporations. Sweet bones, sweet dreams. Have a good one. Holy shit. Hypothesis. I don't actually know if that's the case. Two, transactions. We define an electronic coin as a chain of digital signatures. So one after the other after the other. Okay. So a coin is just a chain of signatures. Each owner transfers the coin to the next by digitally signing a hash of the previous transaction and the public key of the next owner and adding these to the end of the coin. Okay, so it's like through a verified process you edit the title of the, for lack of a better word, the title of the file, the item, because it is a file. A payee can verify the signatures to verify the chain of ownership, which I assume is something like an MD5 sum check number. Transaction. Owner 1's public key goes into the hash. Owner 0's signature. Owner 1's private key. Sign, verify. Okay, this is where my understanding is not good. The owner 1's public key. I just realized how I'm going to get the test material for the QA. 4349. I wonder if that attack would work. But I'm pretty sure that's why they're pushing data centers so intensely. Security, security, it's all in the name of security. And it's like, no, it's not. It's in the name of your greed and knowing what your number one downfall in the system is, because it's literally enumerated right there in the first page. Okay, so it's just a recursive process of taking, I gotta think about this in terms of variables. Owner 1's public key hash, hash provided from owner 0's signature. So owner 0, that was the thing about the very first one that was developed or decrypted. Read about that in the Wikipedia article, which is helpful. So that gets fed to the next person. Owner 1's public key after the transaction. Okay, so there's 0, and then that gets fed through a transaction occurs, the file is transferred to the next person. So owner 0's base calculation is transacted to owner 1's ownership through the public key. But that's just transaction. Okay, so this says nothing about the actual like cryptographic element of it. This is purely, this is like a notational white paper. I want to know how the calculation goes down and what's required for the calculation to go down, because that's left out of this sort of, well, we'll call it a white box because it's a white paper. But anyway, so yeah, it's basically just like a, chill, dude, you're on the second fucking page. Okay. So owner 1's public key, hash gets added to it from owner 0's signature. Owner 0's signature, I think, comes from their public key, I guess. Oh, I see. So there's signatures, public keys, and private keys. Private keys you don't share. Public keys are a unique identifier of an individual. I kind of understand that element of PGP. And then I guess the signature is an authorization that's directly related to verification through the public key and the private key of an individual. That's the working assumption that I'm going off of. So future we'll see if that's remotely accurate or not. Thanks for hanging out, by the way. Oh, I think I recall you're in. I think you're in Europe. I don't know. So owner zero's signature. Oh, I see. So the signature is formed of the timestamp hash and owner one's public key on the data that's supplied from the initial decryption. Okay, simple enough. That signature is fed after a transaction to owner 2. The timestamp hash of the completion of, I guess, the transaction, and the public key of the second owner end up creating owner 1's signature, and it's verified by 0's public key, 1's public key and 1's private key. Oh no, it's verified by owner 1's public key because that's public information based upon the ownership chain. Okay, that part makes sense. And then it's signed by owner 1's private key. So there must be an owner 0 private key, that goes into signing owner 0's signature on whatever the chain is. At least I would assume that that's the case. I don't actually know if that's the case. But given that that's how the chain of events is meant to unfold, that's probably how it works. Payee can verify the signatures, verify the chain of ownership. The problem, of course, is the payee can't verify that one of the owners did not double spend the coin. A common solution is to introduce a trusted central authority or mint that checks every transaction for double spending. After each transaction, the coin must be returned. I guess this is going into the theory behind how, I think what it's meant to be is kind of like a generalized case study of how entities, like, I don't want to use the name of the corporation because I abhor it, but basically online credit verifiers and online payment verifiers that use fiat currency and, Visa or MasterCard or American Express credit cards or direct links to your accounts. A common solution is to introduce a trusted central authority or mint that checks every transaction for double spending. After each transaction, the coin must be returned to the mint to issue a new coin, and only coins issued directly from the mint are trusted not to be double spent. The problem with this solution is that the fate of the entire money system depends on the company running the mint, with every transaction having to go through them, just like a bank. Right, so they function like a bank. So this is where it's like proof of differentiation relative to extant system. It's kind of a cramped spot, and I don't really want to move this over, but I guess I kind of have to. Fudge buckets. I'm also thinking about the way that all this information could be, like the things that I'm sharing, how it could be like edited, and how the FUD could be used. I hate being that paranoid. need a way for the payee to know that the previous owners did not sign any earlier transactions. For our purposes, the earliest transaction is the one that counts, so we don't care about later attempts to double spend. The only way to confirm the absence of transaction is to be aware of all transactions. In the Mint-based model, the Mint was aware of all transactions and decided which arrived first. To accomplish this without a trusted party, transactions must be publicly announced. Okay, so that's the first citation. And we need a system for participants to agree on a single history of the order in which they were received. Yeah, so the payee needs proof that at the time of each transaction, the majority of nodes agreed was the first received. The payee needs proof that at the time of transaction, the majority of nodes agreed it was the first received. Okay. Could this also be used to control the rate at which, is it like a rate limiting practice? Wei Dai, B money. Yeah. Security and privacy, IEEE computer system. Introduction to probability theory and its application in 1957. Okay. Fascinated by Tim May's crypto-anarchy, unlike the communities traditionally associated with the word anarchy, in a crypto-anarchy the government is not temporarily destroyed but permanently forbidden and permanently unnecessary. It's a community where the threat of violence is impotent because violence is impossible, and violence is impossible because its participants cannot be linked to their true names or physical locations. That doesn't mean it's impossible, it just means that it's anonymous. Oh, because its participants cannot be linked. I see. Okay. So violence cannot be extended to the actors. Yeah, but every system is only as secure and anonymous as its least secure and anonymous individual, so until now, it's not clear, even theoretically, how such a community could operate. The community is defined by the cooperation of its participants in efficient cooperation, exchange, and a way to enforce contracts. Traditionally, these services have been provided by the government or government-sponsored institutions and only to legal entities. In this article, I describe a protocol by which these services can be provided to and by untraceable entities. I'll largely describe two protocols. The first one is impractical because it makes heavy use of a synchronous and unjammable anonymous broadcast channel. However, it will motivate the second, more practical protocol. Synchronous and unjammable anonymous broadcast channel, signal. In both cases, I will assume the existence of an untraceable network where senders and receivers are identified only by digital pseudonyms, it as public keys, and every message is signed by its sender and encrypted to its receiver. Satoshi Nakamoto just implemented what this describes. took a decade for the technology to catch up. In both cases, I will assume the existence of an untraceable network where senders and receivers are identified only by digital pseudonyms, signed by its sender and encrypted by its receiver. In the first protocol, every participant maintains a separate database of how much money belongs to each pseudonym. These accounts collectively define the ownership of money, and how these accounts are updated is the subject of this protocol. The creation of money. 1. Anyone can create money by broadcasting the solution to a previously unsolved computational problem. The only condition that it must be easy to determine how much computing effort it took to solve the problem, and the solution must otherwise have no value, either practical or intellectual. The number of monetary units created is equal to the cost of the computing effort in terms of a standard basket of commodities. Whoa. The problem takes 100 hours to solve, and the computer that solves it most economically. It takes 3 standard baskets to purchase 100 hours of computing time. So it's a link between staples and computing time on that computer on the open market. Then upon the broadcast of the solution to that problem, everyone credits the broadcaster's account by 3 units. But that depends on how you define the basket. That's part of the issue. This is really interesting. Also, this is not only going to take an hour to read. Not the way that I like reading stuff. Yeah, so it depends on the definition of a basket. I need to take notes. To the transfer of money. I wasn't going to take notes because then it takes more time. But I end up retaining more, which is why we take notes. Now that makes me think of something else. 2. The transfer of money. If Alice, owner of pseudonym K_A, wishes to transfer X units of money to Bob, owner of pseudonym K_B. Okay, so K sub A, K sub B. She broadcasts the message, I give X units of money to K sub B, signed by K sub A. Okay. On the broadcast of this message, everyone debits K's account by X units and credits KB's account by X units, unless this would create a negative balance in K's account, in which case the message is ignored. I still see a huge problem with that in terms of baskets of goods or basket of commodities. And I also don't know if commodities and goods are interchangeable. 3. The effect of the contracts. A valid contract must include a maximum reparation in case of default for each participant party to it. It should also include a party who will perform arbitration should there be a dispute. All parties to a contract, including the arbitrator, must broadcast their signatures of it before it becomes effective. Upon the broadcast of the contract and all its signatures, every participant debits the account of each party by the amount of his maximum reparation and credits a special account. Every party debits the account of each party by the amount of his maximum reparation and credits a special account identified by a secure hash of the contract by the sum the maximum reparations, by the sum of the maximum reparations. So you're crediting the sum of the maximum reparations. The contract becomes effective if the debits succeed for every party without producing a negative balance. Otherwise, the contract is ignored and the accounts are rolled back. A simple contract might look like this. Case A agrees to send KB the solution of problem P before. Oh, this is fun. 4000 January 2000, January 1st, 2000. KB agrees to pay KA 100 monetary units before that same time. KC agrees to perform arbitration in case of dispute. Maximum of 1000 MU in case of default. KB agrees to pay a maximum of 200 MU in case of default. Oh, it's contracts for solving calculations. This is how you do the calculations. Wow, ask and you shall receive. Check that out. KB agrees to pay a maximum of 200 in case of default. KC agrees to pay a maximum of 500 MU in case of default. 5 to 1700 total, but where does it all go? Who gets paid for the default? Okay, so yeah, it's like, I will complete this calculation by this time. Okay, I will pay you before this time, and that's a successful thing. If it is unsuccessful, party C will perform arbitration in case of dispute. KA agrees to pay. This is almost like entrenching contract law into computer science. It's like a doctrine for the future. It's kind of cool, and it's mathematically based. KA agrees to pay a maximum of who's. So I guess you're paying for arbitration 1200 total to KC, but you're paying a maximum of 500 MU in case of default for the conclusion of contract. So the contract concludes without dispute. Each party broadcasts a signed message. The contract with SHA-1 #H concludes without reparations, or possibly the contract with SHA-1 #H concludes with the following reparations. On the broadcast of all signatures, every participant credits the account of each party by the amount of his maximum reparation, removes the contract account, then credits or debits the account of each party according to the reparation schedule if there is one. So you're paying 1,000 for each. So KA would pay 3,000 total, because it's 1,000 per party, or no, sorry, 2,000 total. KB would pay a maximum of 400 because it's 200 each of the parties, and then KC would pay 500 in case of default. So 1,000, which means that I don't think this is how the math works. So then KA is only out 1,000. KB is only out. No, KB gets back. KB agrees to pay 100. So KB sends out 200. So actually 600 paid. Oh, okay. So it's 2,000 paid out less 700, so 1,300 paid out. KC ends up for performing arbitration, gets $1,200 less 1,000, so they get 200. KB recovers. Sorry, I saw the comment. I'm just trying to figure this out. I almost have it. I'm reading one of the citations in Satoshi Nakamoto's paper. KB agrees to pay a maximum of 200, so they spend 400 for arbitration, but they gain back, so it's 15 less once they get back 13. So, okay. Hello. Pleasure to have you here. Sounds like you got a really cool channel name. I'm departing in about 40 or so minutes. Maybe a bit earlier than that. We'll see. I gotta eat some food, and there's an event online that I'll be attending at the top of the hour. But in the meantime, I am attempting to make sense of Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper on Bitcoin. Hello. If you don't know me, I'm pretty sure that I recognize your username, though. Thank you very much. I'm not leaving yet for food. I'm way too invested in reading more about this and trying to understand it because I've been delaying learning about this for quite some time. But I'm stoked to have you here, and I'm stoked on your company. Do you stream chemistry by any chance? It seems like you might. Just a guess. I'm going to get back to trying to figure this out. I think I just figured out affecting contracts or concluding contract. Or no, I read for conclusion of contract. Oh, this is what I would have had to functionally do when I was employed by Redacted. Oh, fuck that. That's ridiculous. Just with regards to like focusing on work, plus reviewing new elements of learning, plus managing, one or two other streams of communication simultaneously. This is enjoyable, but I just had a big epiphany about existence. Fair enough. Yeah. Oh, you found my channel by the math tag. Yay! Well, thanks for dropping in. Amusingly, we are kind of doing math. For those of you who don't know me, I'm practicing my channel introduction because that's what Twitch streamers do. And I'm not really a deadly uncle. I go by the name The Begging Poet. Occasionally, I tend to write poetry that begs that we turn money into change so that we can make sense of all of these cents. Alternatively phrased, I would say, I just think it would be nice if we could turn some money into change because it would help us make sense of all these cents. Still working on that. More to math used in natural sciences like calculus, differential equations, stats, linear algebra, etc. Cool. I have to admit, I'm kind of a wannabe math streamer. I would not consider myself to be particularly caught up on truly effective pedagogy, but at the same time, I also recognize that I'm kind of hard on myself a lot of the time. But always happy to talk about math and science. Always happy to answer questions to the best of my ability. And also, always happy to learn together. Because that is a good thing to do. I'm not so proud that I would say, excuse me, I'm not so proud that I can't say, let me get back to you on that one. Or, I don't know, let me read. So, that's rad though. I'm really stoked to hear that. Those are all very, very interesting topics. Hey, Calc 2 is dope. Integral calculus is a very, very interesting topic. Yeah, being able to find volumes of things is quite satisfying. It's like zipping up the zipper that's unzipped when you do differential calculus. You know what? Now would be a really good time for me to put a pin in my reading and to spend a few minutes just conversing with you, because otherwise I'm going to ignore you, and I don't want to do that, seeing as I am doing a stream. Although there is also, I guess, the ASMR element of just, going through and chugging along and reading through and doing my own thing. But for the sake of politeness and cordiality and common courtesy and just generally, being a mensch, I would like to interact. And also, I tend to have a very all or nothing approach to things. For instance, I would have much preferred taking notes in a notebook while I was going through this, but that would have been even more immersive for me, and I was attempting to do like a quick read. But I don't like doing a first read through of material and not understanding as much as possible. I know that a lot of people advocate doing one read through as like a skim to kind of get a general idea and become familiar with some of the terms. I like being more meticulous than that, which is probably to my detriment. It probably takes me longer to acquire information as a result of that instead of reading through quickly once. I easily could have read through this document by now, is what I'm saying, and most of the things that are cited, or at least some of them. But this is also remarkably short. Like, I'm almost at the end of this document, so it's like I kind of want to get through it. Calc 2 just made me realize again that all the advanced math in university is simply basic math, but with a bit of new expressions and symbols. Yep. Integrals are just areas and volumes, but you need more complex methods instead of the classic formulas to calculate idealized figures. That is an interesting way of phrasing it, particularly at the end of the second sentence. But that's very much how I looked at it when I was learning it. It made a lot of the information and stuff that was practiced throughout high school make a lot more sense. Did you know that within a 60-year period, Newton and Leibniz developed calculus without any dialogue with one another and in two completely different notations, which I think is fascinating. I might have the numbers slightly off, but I think that's pretty cool. One moment, please. Also, it's important to take breaks. Oh, this is fun. Yeah, I didn't know about that. It's so cool that two different minds came to the same conclusion at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. That's precisely why I find it fascinating. Newton wasn't happy with Leibniz taking part of the credit for calculus, though. Interesting. Bad at sharing. That's shitty. I love. Okay, that's what the emoji's for. Nice. Sipping on the tea. That's funny as fuck. And thank you for the follow. I very much appreciate that. Wow. This is almost like a subathon, or I guess a follow-a-thon. I've had like 3 new followers today. I can't say that I'm a connoisseur of the Cars franchise, but this feels like a good time for a solid ka-chow. Okay. Honestly, learning is like such a delicious thrill. I don't want to stop reading it. Um, it's unfortunate that more people don't have that relationship with knowledge and learning and, excuse me, education. Okay. Um, in my heart, I know that I should run downstairs and start making food, but I don't want to bother. I got many, many, many years ago. Um, I pursued a few different things, but I ended up graduating with a BSc in what was called integrated science. So I specialized in environmental and earth sciences and math and stats. And then I got 2 minors, one in international studies and the other in economics. Oh, enforcement of contracts. How about yourself? If you're doing Calc 2, then you're probably something sort of technical at least, and given the interests that you described, yeah, you said natural sciences, it's kind of giving like, well, and also Calc 2 is usually like a first-ish, second year-ish, so maybe you're looking to do probably something within the sciences or engineering. Oh, meteorology, neat. So I guess I can learn from you environmental science. Well, yeah, I mean, it's also important to understand too that like most most scientific fields, they're taught to a certain standard, and there is like a certain like general like set of knowledge that people end up acquiring as a result of their education. Um, but by no means do I have any particularly specialized understanding of meteorology. Um, but climate stuff, atmospheric stuff a little bit, um, kind of the chemistry behind it too. That's all kind of stuff I understand a little bit. You know what? I am gonna run downstairs and make myself some food. Um, I'm gonna do a mukbang really quickly. But I have to run downstairs and make food. I would love to take my devices with me, but due to extenuating circumstances, I'm not able to do that. So what I will have to do is leave my devices upstairs, just because I don't want to have to be running between my stream and like in case I have to like shut it down or not shut it down, but just like mute stuff for whatever reason. I have housemates, so there's just like more than just myself, and I have to be conscientious of that. I will, however, be back in like 3 minutes. I'm going to set some stuff to cook, run back upstairs, check on it in a few minutes after that, and kind of go through that. So please hang tight. I will be back, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, queries, please do drop them in the chat. And yeah, stoked to hear more about anything you want to share. And thanks for being here. I hope that you enjoy the mellow sounds of the simulation, because nothing is real. I actually really want to read this. I do not do... Well, I guess it's not that I don't do moderation well. It's like... my brain is like a greyhound. I'm just like, or a whippet. I'm just like, must run, must read, must comprehend the world around me better. So it's like, there's an intrinsic value in just reading and learning. And it's really satisfying to be doing that, because like, that's the joy of education. You get to do that in elementary school if it's engaging enough. High school can be a little bit better because of certain programs, and more slightly more catered to what your interests might be, and a little bit more wiggle room in what you get to learn. But generally there's like a pretty shared overlap, like 90% of the courses that people take outside of like higher levels of technical stuff like math and science, or things like theater. Once you get into post-secondary, I mean, it's a whole world of reading. You can learn about all kinds of stuff. But the real reward that I'm learning now, after a bit of time out of post-secondary, is how enjoyable the experience of reading about this stuff is. So I'm gonna stop pontificating and run away for a second. So I will return in a second. I don't want to go and eat, because I'm like, I haven't learned enough. I need to understand this better. And it also feels weird interrupting something that you're so close to finishing reading, but it's like, I have to focus on the bigger picture and the fact that I need to be doing something in like 20 minutes. So it's like, I know that I need to eat. This has helping keep me accountable. High five. Thanks. Well, I guess high five me too. Okay. Oh, fudge it. Enforcement of contracts to the parties. Oh, yeah, I'm like... Enforcement of contracts to the parties to a contract cannot agree on appropriate conclusion. I had this realization that this, like, citation is basically, like, recodifying, like, a simplified contract law, but like automated. It's kind of neat. Enforcement of contracts. The parties to a contract cannot agree on an appropriate conclusion even if they're held by the arbitrator. Each party broadcasts a suggested reparation fine schedule and all the arguments or evidence in his favor. Each participant makes a determination as to the actual reparation and or fines and modifies his accounts accordingly. Participant. The second protocol. The accounts. Money are kept by a subset of the participants called servers from now on. Instead of everyone, these servers are linked to a Usenet style broadcast channel. Oh, so they're making like a specific case from the general case. This is why math nomenclature is so helpful. format of transaction messages broadcasted on this channel remain the same as in the first protocol, but the affected participants of each transaction should verify the messages being received as by the selected subset of the server. Okay. So the server must be trusted to do something. The servers. This is why I genuinely believe, in addition to like category 1, are you familiar with Bitcoin and Satoshi Nakamoto? Because his white paper is very interesting. I'm only reading it today for the first time, and there's I think I realized this the last time that I tried reading this paper, because I only got as far as the first section, which is on the first page, amusingly enough, after the abstract. But basically there's a way to override the security of cryptocurrency, but it's arguably every bit as theoretically possible but practically impossible as this first protocol that's mentioned in this citation, which is like the first citation in the white paper. A side quest, if you will. Just have to be able to overpower the computing power of centralized servers, which of course relies upon the hypothesis being true that more computing power exists in a distributed system. Oh, that's probably why lag is also incorporated and can be weaponized, even though we have the technology to have basically lagless internet. Oh. Oh man, my neurons are firing right now. If my brain was an engine, it is mainlining NOS right now. Shit. Distracted myself. I wanted to write that down. 4415. Even fuck. Even if you were to sufficient computing power, variable lag and server timestamps globally would make it challenging to sync You don't have to be the big bad wolf to blow something down. You can just be the bug that flies to the top of a house of cards and happens to sneeze. You're back. Howdy do. Be right back. Thank you very much. Be right back in like 2 seconds. Excuse me. Thank you for your patience. It's just, yeah, I've got to run downstairs and we'll get there. Okay. Thank you. Well, as it happens, the time has come for me to depart, and once again, ADHD strikes. It's interesting because sometimes one gives oneself structure to one's day because there are important things to do and because it's good to do a variety of things and be engaged in things that are fulfilling. And I guess it's one of those tricky biscuits where there's a large part of me that just doesn't want to interrupt the current state of flow that I'm in and the tasks that I'm engaged with because learning is good and I don't want to shut it off. Like, shut down the process of learning. Granted, I guess I don't have to per se. I could always just keep doing my own thing and just shut down the streams. But I guess it's fun sharing that experience with another person. So there's that too. Streaming is a very weird thing. Like, very, very weird. I think what I might actually do is keep the stream going, but I think I'm going to turn stuff off. I'm going to open up a tab and be active in the chat. And then I'll I'll see what I end up doing tonight. Yeah. No, I should shut it down. That makes more sense. Thanks for coming to hang out. Actually, performatively, it would be kind of cool to. What if I did. You're very welcome. There's a part of my brain that's like, yeah, but you know how to like juggle all these things. Actually, to be fair, I don't have to leave immediately, but I do have to leave within like 5 to 10 minutes. But I'm also thinking, what if I just join this Zoom call with headphones and then I just listen to the Zoom call and participate as I normally would, but continue streaming? Have a good time outside stream. See ya. Well, I'm not going to make a decision yet. I'm going to delay that decision for future me. Okay. BRB again. guess what it also is the fact that I feel like there needs to be some sensible conclusion to the reading that I'm doing. I'm so afraid of losing my spot. Thank you for still hanging around if you are still here. I'm assuming that you probably got on because of my waffling back and forth, but hello. If you are still hanging out, or for anybody who may have joined us, joined me. I'm so afraid of losing my spot. I'm so afraid of yeah. I'm so afraid of losing my spot. Should have done that thing before. Shoot. Excuse me. That's the thing with ADHD. It's just like it's a situation where you just feel perpetually racing against yourself to stay on track and engaged. It's tough, honestly. Because it's like you learn so acutely the fear of Right. That scared the ever loving shit out of me. I'm not gonna do this to myself. Oh, and I have to get my food. All of that's still going. That's kind of cool. Um, yeah,